fans of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, get ready for the most contentious conflict on reality TV to erupt once more. We all believed that KIRK Frost and Rasheeda's marriage had finally entered a calm phase when, suddenly erupted on social media, leaving everyone utterly taken aback. Yes, Jasmine Bleu has emerged from the background and is once again in the spotlight. This time, she's not just talking, she's presenting receipts and serious accusations that have the potential to rock the Frost family to its core. One question is now causing a lot of discussion on the internet. Has KIRK Frost betrayed Rasheeda once more? What specifically caused Jasmine Bleu to break her silence, at this point, causing Rasheeda to experience yet another round of emotional upheaval and public humiliation? The toxic and turbulent past of KIRK and Jasmine, particularly with their son Canon caught in the midst, is all too familiar to fans. However, Jasmine's abrupt outburst this time isn't limited to previous child support difficulties. It alludes to brand new mysteries that have not yet been revealed to the general public. Rasheeda, who has a reputation for supporting her partner through good times and bad like a rock, must now deal with this unexpected, intense blowback. Has KIRK finally gone too far this time? We are delving deeply into the depths of this developing issue in today's video. We'll go into exactly what Jasmine Bleu revealed, how KIRK is frantically attempting to limit the harm, and how Rasheeda is dealing with this new wave of psychological pain in front of the public. Watch this video until the very end, if you want to know every single delicious detail of reality TV's largest complicated love triangle. There will be a huge surprise that you will not anticipate. We must follow the origins of a relationship that has pushed the limits of reality television for almost 10 years in order to fully comprehend the scope of this recent eruption. Since Love and Hip Hop Atlanta's founding, KIRK Frost and Rasheeda have been its main musical mainstays. At first, their marriage was portrayed as a partnership based on mutual respect, business, and music. But when Jasmine Bleu first entered the picture years ago, that polished image entirely fell apart. Not only did Jasmine's revelation of her pregnancy with KIRK's child upend a marriage, but it also rocked the entertainment business as a whole. Rasheeda was humiliated on national television for years as viewers witnessed agonizing instances of DNA tests, public denials, and sad confrontations. Rasheeda made the decision to forgive in the face of overwhelming demand from her admirers to leave. She ultimately permitted KIRK's youngest son, Canon, to participate in their extended family dynamic after deciding to rebuild her home and preserve her tranquility. The storm seemed to have passed for a considerable amount of time. The pair presented a unified front that implied healing had actually occurred by concentrating on their prosperous retail endeavors, their pressed boutiques, and their blended family. The public had gradually moved over the previous scandals, commending Rasheeda for her poise and fortitude in the face of adversity. However, in the turbulent realm of celebrity culture, calm is frequently merely a prelude to a far bigger storm. When Jasmine Bleu chose to end her long-standing silence, the relative calm that surrounded the Frost home vanished overnight. The entire internet was taken aback by this blatant and censored assault rather than a subliminal suggestion or a mysterious phrase shared on an Instagram story. Everyone involved, notably Rasheeda, who believed that this chapter of her life was securely closed, is experiencing fresh anxiety as a result of Jasmine's abrupt return to the news. This most recent drama was sparked by a number of extremely precise remarks and digital traces that Jasmine supposedly made public. Insider information and social media screenshots that are making the rounds indicate that Jasmine is asserting that the storyline on TV about their co-parenting relationship and KIRK's eventual faithfulness is wholly made up. The public narrative for years implied that KIRK had taken on the role of father and that boundaries had been set to save his marriage to Rasheeda. But Jasmine is presenting a very different image. One, she suggests that behind closed doors, she and KIRK's conversations were never really limited to parental issues. The charge of continuous manipulation is the most harmful element of Jasmine's current remark. She claims that KIRK has spent years playing both sides, trying to keep Jasmine quiet in the background through financial agreements and hollow promises, all the while trying to maintain the image of a loyal, redeemed husband on television. Rasheeda's sacrifice is fundamentally undermined by this accusation. If these assertions are true, then Rasheeda's current life was built on a foundation of forgiveness that was built on a bed of constant deceit. The internet did what it does best when these rumors started to spread. It started analyzing every previous exchange, searching for hints that could support Jasmine's recent assertions. Rasheeda's personal social media profile's comment sections swiftly became a battlefield of viewpoints. Due to her husband's reported conduct, Rasheeda is once again subjected to public scrutiny, which has caused several fans to express tremendous sorrow and displeasure. Others were more critical, asking why she stayed in the first place if the past will always cast a shadow over her future. It is impossible to overstate the emotional toll that this circumstance has taken on Rasheeda. It is a huge responsibility to have millions of strangers dispute your personal life, marital decisions, and dignity. Rasheeda has been working non-stop for years to become a respected entrepreneur and fashion magnate, rather than merely a reality star. She desired that her success as an entrepreneur would define her legacy rather than her partner's adultery. Her accomplishments are in danger of being overshadowed by this abrupt return to drama, with dragging her back into the story of the rejected wife, a name she has struggled mightily to avoid. According to people close to Love and Hip Hop's production, this unexpected conflict has caused a great deal of stress behind the scenes. Conflict are the lifeblood of reality television, and producers seek out scandals of this size to boost viewership. But for those who are experiencing it, it is a nightmare. According to reports, Rasheeda is extremely embarrassed by the timing of these accusations because she was concentrating on growing her commercial endeavors and taking advantage of a time of home stability. The implication of evidence is what makes Jasmine's current position so risky in contrast to her previous outburst. Allegations are cheap without evidence in the current social media environment, but Jasmine has implied that she has text messages, call logs, and financial records to support her accusations about KIRK's double life. She poses a serious threat to KIRK's meticulously restored reputation since she has presented herself as someone who has nothing left to lose. The harm to KIRK's reputation could be irrevocable if she chooses to make these purported receipts public, and Rasheeda would face unprecedented pressure to make a final decision on her marriage. The first issue that arises as the public becomes aware of this controversy is, how will KIRK Frost respond? In the past, he primarily relied on denial, minimization, and ultimately using reality TV as a platform to control the narrative alongside his spouse. However, Jasmine's direct public speaking on independent platforms may make that outdated approach ineffective. Tension is evident as the scene is prepared for a major conflict. The Frost family is perched on a cliff, and the next action taken by any one of these three people will decide whether the marriage endures or ultimately fails due to the weight of previous transgressions. The atmosphere surrounding KIRK Frost has turned into one of complete terror as the rumors have grown more intense in public. Pressure has reached a boiling point. Jasmine Bleu's abrupt verbal attack poses a devastating threat to a guy who has spent the previous few years painstakingly transforming his image from a reckless reality TV villain into a mature, supportive businessman and family patriarch. According to reports, KIRK's initial response behind closed doors was a desperate attempt to manage the consequences before the news was picked up as an indisputable fact by major media sites. In the past, KIRK's main line of defense has been to wait for the initial outcry on the internet to subside before taking action on his terms, usually in the safe setting of a television studio. But the digital landscape has significantly changed, and Jasmine's aggressive attitude is making the traditional strategy of ignoring the issue completely ineffective. According to industry insiders, KIRK has been frantically trying to get in touch with Jasmine via middlemen in an effort to defuse the situation before any irreparable harm is done. After months of quiet co-parenting and seeming compliance, his camp is reportedly attempting to determine what caused this unexpected outburst. KIRK's underlying worry isn't limited to the possibility of his marital stability being destroyed. It is the actual danger to his means of subsistence. Due in large part to their combined marketability as a prominent, power couple, KIRK and Rasheeda have been able to negotiate lucrative brand agreements, performances, and company sponsorships throughout the years. This level of infidelity scandal resurrection puts at risk of alienating corporate partners who don't want to be associated with unpleasant public crises. The specifics of what Jasmine Bleu is threatening to unleash are beginning to emerge, adding to the Frost family's fear as KIRK tries to erect a defensive wall. Jasmine has publicly implied that any agreements or unwritten understandings that previously kept her silent are no longer in place to protect her. She has stated that years' worth of digital receipts in her archives depict a whole different reality of their marital dynamics. Sources keeping an eye on the issue claim that these purported receipts contain lengthy text message exchanges in which KIRK allegedly makes critical remarks about his public life and expresses a wish to keep up a parallel relationship with Jasmine. Additionally, there are hints of financial records, including bank transfers and unofficial digital payments that Jasmine says were delivered to maintain her financial stability outside of the traditional court-mandated child support system. The story that KIRK has been totally honest with Rasheeda about his relationships with his ex-partner would be absolutely destroyed if these records were made public. The very fact that these said communications exist implies a pattern of behavior that never really ceased, indicating that the deceit was actively taking place even when KIRK was on television claiming to be growing and changing. KIRK's condition is extremely risky because of this hidden layer of communication, music. It demonstrates that was never really a thing of the past. Because she has seen how people react to receipts, Jasmine has the most leverage. She is holding that leverage over KIRK's head like a ticking time bomb because she is aware that in the court of public opinion, a single screenshot has more weight than 1,000 spoken denials. The couple's workplace has grown extremely tense as this emotional and administrative disarray takes place in their personal lives. The production crew of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta has definitely become aware of the growing tension, and, behind the scenes, an entirely different kind of maneuvering is occurring. Producers must perform a careful balancing act when it comes to, on the one hand, a huge actual controversy involving two of its longest-running cast members will undoubtedly result in enormous social media engagement and viewership, which are essential to reality TV. However, there is a profound sense of exhaustion and moral anxiety about how much more agony Rasheeda may be expected to go through for entertainment. There are already internal conversations regarding how to address this plot in future filming schedules, according to reports from production sources. According to reports, KIRK is opposing the use of as a major story point in this drama because he understands that doing so on TV will only support Jasmine's allegations and make the scandal more famous. Rasheeda, on the other hand, is reportedly very uncooperative with any attempts to capitalize on her present emotional state. She has worked for years to elevate her brand above the show's standard drama, and she doesn't want to go back to being the focal point of a degrading marital problem. As everyone strives to defend their own interests in the face of an imminent PR catastrophe, there is a noticeable friction between the network executives and the cast members. Because of how much Rasheeda gave up her life to make room for KIRK's previous transgressions, the betrayal feels greatly amplified for her. She explicitly assumed that the limits between KIRK and Jasmine were strictly professional, legal, and only focused on the child's care when she first made the significant decision to let young Cannon into her life and home. For the sake of family harmony, she swallowed her pride, disregarded the constant ridicule from social media detractors, and offered a helping hand. Finding out that those boundaries might have been frequently crossed behind her back is a psychological blow that goes beyond normal marital discord. The public perceives her prior generosity as folly, which is a pill that a proud, successful lady like Rasheeda finds difficult to swallow. Close associates characterize the current state of affairs in the Frost household as an uncomfortable, cold quiet. Rasheeda is said to have emotionally and physically separated herself from KIRK as she considers the veracity of these growing allegations. This time, she's not jumping to her husband's defense or making generalizations to appease the media. Her silence conveys to KIRK and the rest of the world that she has run out of patience. As he waits for Jasmine's next move, KIRK feels vulnerable and alone since the confidence he once had in his ability to smoothly talk his way out of challenging situations has vanished. The stakes have never been higher, and it becomes more and more obvious that KIRK is no longer in control of the story as reality sets in. The Frost family is today dealing with the harsh fact that some of their divisions are just too deep to be concealed by fame, fortune, or past compromises. In the face of Jasmine Bleu's new claims, Rasheeda made the uncommon decision to be emotionally detached and utterly mute, marking a crucial turning point in this 10-year story. The audience became used to Rasheeda taking a stance over a period of years. Whether that meant going up against her husband on camera, requesting space, or finally coming forth to say that they were resolving their differences as a unified front. But this time, it's overwhelming to not hear her voice. It indicates that music has reached a psychological breaking point. She no longer wants to do damage control for a man who constantly pushes her into the embarrassing limelight of unstable marriages. KIRK's silence has left him totally vulnerable, devoid of the protection that his wife's pardon has always offered him. In the past, when fans chastised KIRK, they finally changed their minds because they respected Rasheeda's decision to stay. However, KIRK is left to deal with the full, undiluted fury of public opinion on his own without Rasheeda actively supporting him to validate his rehabilitation. Rasheeda has received strong support from the online community, who want her to understand that her allegiance shouldn't be a lifelong source of emotional suffering. She now has a different type of resilience thanks to this outpouring of support, the ability to see that her personality and her economic empire are independent of the survival of a shattered marriage. She is fully aware that a clean break may be the only way to maintain her hard-earned legacy, and she has developed a big personal brand that stands on its own 2 feet. As Rasheeda considers her alternatives, attention eventually turns to the enormous financial empire the couple has amassed over the years. They are more than simply a husband and wife, they are close business associates. Their assets are intricately linked, ranging from joint television contracts and entertainment investments to real estate holdings and upscale fashion boutiques like Prest. In addition to being a personal tragedy, a formal separation or high profile, divorce would set off an extremely complicated legal war over a kingdom worth millions of dollars. When a couple's brands are so similar, splitting the assets can drastically reduce the combined market worth, according to financial specialists in the entertainment sector. KIRK is apparently trying to prevent a permanent legal break since he is well aware of this financial realities. He is aware that his own marketability drastically decreases in the absence of Rasheeda's commercial appeal and impeccable reputation. In the meantime, Jasmine Bleu's part in this developing drama has brought attention to a much broader discussion about the challenges of co-parenting in the spotlight of reality TV. Some claim that Jasmine is just a lady pushed to her limits by a system that prioritizes celebrity over real-world accountability, while others have accused her of being resentful and purposefully cruel by bringing up previous conflicts. Young Cannon, who is growing up in a time when every detail of his parents' unpleasant interactions is eternally preserved on the internet, is the collateral damage in this whole issue. Rasheeda has always made an effort to lessen the long-term effects of this public warfare on the youngsters involved. Her previous readiness to welcome Cannon into the four-family dynamic was only driven by a wish to protect the helpless youngster from the commotion caused by his